Hi guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to discover that we need to make a decision before it's too late. Now, though you may think I'm going to follow that with some quick, sharp-witted tongue bit of humor, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed because the seriousness of this calamity far outweighs the funny aspects of the situation. So let's go. Guys, for more than 6 years, many of us have been beating our heads against a brick wall in frustration at not just the lack of honesty in the government, but also the lack of the fight in the opposition. And let's face it, both are equally as frustrating as the other. Both of them. For 6 years, we've listened to lie after lie being portrayed as the truth by scurrilous politicians who are only out for themselves. Okay, and of course their patrons. And in the same time frame, we have witnessed mainstream media roll out the red carpet to charlatans and liars such as Farage and Johnson and Gove and Rees-Mogg, you know, the normal bloody guys. Okay, we have seen the rise of the far right being covertly encouraged by mainstream media. Hell, we even have a TV station that ensures that people will never forget the invasion of illegal refugees. The invasion, 0.02%. We can see for ourselves the empty food shelves. We can read over and over again there are simply not enough HGV drivers. Okay, but the news that companies are lobbying the government to release prisoners to fill the vacancies in the meat processing industry. I'm sorry guys, that's just too much. That's too much and it has to be called out. To that end, I ask that you share this video across as many platforms as you possibly can and get it to your politicians. Because I did a little bit of digging just to get things into perspectives. The figures I'm using are from Her Majesty's Prison Service and published by the ONS, along with then I have to depend on the figures from the British meat industry itself. Now, just before we get into those figures, let me emphasize again what is being sought by the industry. The industry, in order to help put beef on our tables, is asking the government to give them prisoners to work in their processing plants. Remember, the supply of fresh beef from other EU countries is not affected, not at all, because they have their own drivers, because they have their own workers, because they don't have the same problem in the processing plants that the UK has. This only affects British farmers. This only affects British processors. It only affects British meat getting to British shelves and onto British kitchen tables. There were 97,000 workers involved in the meat processing industry, and that figure does not include those that worked in the poultry business. That's simply limited to the meat, like the beef, the pork, the lamb industry, not the poultry industry. Of those 97,000 and upwards, upwards to I think 85% were EU nationals. Of those EU nationals that work in the industry, many have left the UK, never to return again. Because even if they were now to return again and apply for citizenship or work permits, that would cost them $3 grand. So they're not going to come back. The industry has said that they need at least 20,000 new workers to keep pace with demand. But let's face it, that figure could get a lot higher than it already is if the anti-immigrant rhetoric continues to accelerate at the pace it is now. These guys do not feel welcome. These guys are scared. These workers. The total number of prisoners in UK jails, remember we need 20,000 minimum. The total number of prisoners in UK jails, including Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, by the way, is 78,000. Okay? Of those 78,000, 50% are for violent crimes or for felonious sex acts. So that cuts it down. That leaves us with a figure of 39,000. Okay? They're just thieves and robbers and other miscellaneous crimes. But less than 2% of those 39,000, less than 2% of the 39,000 are first-time offenders and have been caught multiple times in multiple jurisdictions and convicted in multiple courts. Okay? Now, Of the 39,000, 12 and a half of them are already on outreach programs. Okay, so that leaves us, you know, and these programs, by the way, are monitored by the prison authorities, and the companies that are involved in them go through training and vetting and all sorts of stuff. So basically, we're left with a figure of 26,500. But within that 26,500, you can legitimately expect 5% of those, at least 5% of those, to be unable to work, whether because of physical issues or mental issues. So I think 5% of the 26,500 is that's a pretty fair estimate. That leaves us with 25,000. Now, in reality, what is being sought from the government is that they should release 50% of the entire prison population. That's it. They keep the sex offenders and violent offenders in prison. Everybody else that has been thieving and selling stolen property and taking stolen, you know, stealing cars and all that sort of stuff, leave that aside. They're okay. Let them out. You know, give them a dog tag. Seriously, guys, what part of that story makes you want to scream? What part of that story does not make you want to feel angry about the disaster we are facing? There has not been a single solution proposed to solve the labour crisis. Luckily for the government, over the last few days, and in a weird way, this crisis that's been highlighted by the media industry has been deflected by the humanitarian disaster in Afghanistan, which they have also screwed up. Now, can we all agree that this is nuts? And can we also agree that Brexiteer numpties are going to reply and say something stupid like, you know, oh, it worked in Shawshank, so why not Dartmoor? Or other crazy, nonsensical remarks. Furthermore, the skills required in these industries they're not basic skills. These workers require training. Sure, there are jobs that require brute strength, but there are sophisticated machines there to speed up the processing, but those machines and those butchering skills require training. And they're not learned in 1 week. Hygiene protocols, handling protocols, recording systems alone, that could take 1 week. But the handling skills, that takes a lot longer. In fact, according to the industry, that training could take up to 2 years. This is not a pandemic issue. This is not a COVID issue. This is 100% a Brexit issue. And Brexiteers need to be reminded of their responsibility. They caused this mess. We are all suffering this mess, and we are letting them laugh and say, get over it. Really, just get over it. The industry, according to Tony Godger, the Association of Independent Meat Suppliers, has suggested that prisons look at some of the other free training available, such as the Food Safety Authority's allergen training and the vacuum packing training. Like, in effect, they want to have the prisoners job ready. I mean, seriously, Jesus, we're using the prisons as training camps for the meat industry. The problem is these prisoners are not ready for release, and they want to get them out early. They have not repaid society for their crimes. But because they're not going to go to these factories and work for free, they're going to be paid. But even this, if this was to work, even if they could get all the prisoners to work in remote locations, as that's where these plants are, remember. They're not in the centre of towns, they're in the outskirts. Do you expect the prison officers to move their families there? Or what about the current workers that are already there? How secure do you think they feel working amongst all the prisoners? Sure, prisoners can be electronically tagged, but if that was the solution, why wouldn't the prisons have done that in the first place? Let's also not forget for a second that these vacancy figures do not take into account the shortages in the poultry processing industry, nor in the food and beverage industry, nor in the haulage industry and the warehousing industry. This is just one industry. One. So I ask you, I plead with you, share this video with all your friends, especially your local politicians, but accompanied with a simple note to your Mr. Politician. What are you going to do now, not tomorrow, to fix this serious problem? And by the way, Mr. Politician, please send me the copy of Priti Patel's answer to this question ASAP, because my Christmas depends on her answer and it's around the corner. So you take care, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.